Okay, members of the House. Members will take their seats. Mr. Clerk, if you'll ring the bell. Members will please take your seats. We've stood in recess. My favorite part of the school day was recess. What about yours, Minority Leader Beverly? I know it was Representative Williams' favorite part of the day, recess, no doubt about that. All members, please take your seats. We have a little unfinished business we will attend to now, and then we'll have afternoon orders after we conclude this business. At this time, I will recognize Chairman Carson for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move we agree to the Senate substitute on House Bill 30.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB House Bill 30?
House Bill 30 by Representative Carson of the 46th, abstration of the 104th, Panitch of the 51st, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 50, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated, relating the general provisions relative to state government, so as to provide for the definition of anti-Semitism.
Chairman Carson, you're recognized to explain the Senate substitute to House Bill 30.
Well, folks, some days I didn't know if we were going to get here or not. But what this bill does is very, very similar to what we passed in 2022. We passed this bill in 2023. And since that time, we've of passing this bill, we've seen an unbelievable increase in anti-Semitic acts. We've seen more leaflets in Dunwoody, Brookhaven, really all over our state. We've seen neo-Nazi demonstrations in my county, in Cobb County, also in Macon. And folks, I hope you will just stand with me one more time and say this activity has got to stop. What this bill does is provide a definition for anti-Semitism such that when analyzing the intent behind illegal discriminatory acts that target Jewish people, whether it involves a hate crime or other illegal discrimination, and there's an allegation that the action was motivated by anti-Jewish sentiment, the relevant authorities consider as rebuttable evidence the world's most accepted definition of anti-Semitism. Many of you know I've been working on this bill for 3 years, and I can thank so many different people, Mr. Speaker. The American Jewish Committee, Atlanta Israel Coalition, Israel American Council, Hillels of Georgia, Hadassah. Many of you are in the gallery, and thank you so much for being here. Folks, it's time to get this done. I think the Speaker said it very well just before session, whereas the Speaker said certain things rise above politics. It is time to get this done. It is time to stand up to the anti-Semitic acts. And again, people can say whatever they want. You can see that in the bill, that First Amendment rights of free speech are still protected. Folks, I want you to join with me and show the nation who we are as Georgians and stand up to this anti-Semitic behavior once and for all. And on behalf of my friends in the Jewish community, I ask you to support House Bill 30, substitute from the Senate. And for what I hope is the last time on the anti-Semitism bill, I will soon yield the will. Mr. Speaker, we've debated this thoroughly, but I am happy to take a question or two on this measure.
Thank you for your work, and you do have a question or two.
Yes, sir. I'll take a question.
All right, to your, just straight in front of you, Chair Lady Silcox is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, to my friend.
Isn't it true that especially in light of the attacks, the horrific attacks of October 7th, 2023, that Jewish groups all across the state of Georgia have been crying out for this legislation like never before?
That is absolutely true to my friend and my co-sponsor for this bill. And many of those people that are crying out for that are here in the gallery and in elsewhere, and especially in your area of the state. So thank you for your support.
Thank you for this legislation.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
Yes, sir, I will.
To your left, Representative Becky Evans is recognized for a question. Representative Evans.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am, to my friend.
Yes, thank you. Isn't it true that this definition of anti-Semitism that we are passing today is not codified into our law, but it refers to the IRA definition that's listed separately? So the definition is not codified in the law. Is that true?
Well, it's referred to, just like we do with other definitions with regard to federal health care programs, with regard to the national insurance commissioners, with regard to the American Forestry Association. There's many times that we in our state code refer to a definition, but we don't subjugate our legislative authority. We tie that definition to a certain date, just like we've done here.
Thank you. Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, to my friend.
Thank you. So isn't it also true that this definition includes examples? Believe there are 11 examples of anti-Semitism.
Yes, ma'am. Those 11 examples are part of the IRA definition, yes.
That's true. And isn't it true that 7 of the 11 examples refer to criticisms of Israel?
If the gentlelady so states, but again, this protects free speech, and it is not, no one can be arrested, and no one has ever been arrested. That's one thing that hasn't been stated in this Capitol. No one has ever been arrested for speaking ill of Israel. It's when that is combined with violence or discrimination.
Yes, thank you. I just have one final, but does the gentleman yield for one more?
To my friend.
Yes, I would. Isn't it true that many of us are concerned that the charge of anti-Semitism will be leveled against folks who speak out against the human rights abuses of Israel, especially students and professors on college campuses?
To my friend, I think we've talked about this numerous times. I hear what you're saying, but again, if you read the legislation, the First Amendment is protected in regard to saying whatever you want, no matter how vile, against the state of Israel or its government or its people. It's when that is combined with acts of violence or discrimination.
Thank you.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Let's see, the gentleman from the 116th, Representative Holly, is recognized for a question. To your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
To my friend, yes.
Yes, sir. I was curious if the IRA, do you agree that the IRA definition holds that the criticism of the state of Israel is also not allowed?
You know, we're getting so many questions about this. I would refer many of you to lines 29 through 34, which specifically state that nothing in this bill should be construed to infringe upon the First Amendment, including our freedom of speech.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
But if the IRA definition itself, this is your bill, and you place this in here, and if the IRA definition itself literally says that it literally conflates the criticism of the political government of Israel with anti-Semitism. Now, granted, you may not necessarily want to say that on the microphone, but literally because you put this definition in here, and this bill does support that, then this would not also literally stop average citizens from exercising their First Amendment right to speak about the 30,000 Palestinian civilians that are literally been killed in a genocide committed by the state of Israel. Would this not stop them from being able to speak about that?
This would not stop. And what I would further say to opponents, my friends that are opponents on this bill, please identify one person who has been arrested because of a similar statute in another state or by the federal government's executive orders. Please name me one person has been arrested or charged with anti-Semitism just based on speech. It does not exist. It was said on the Senate floor there's 33 states that have passed this. There's actually about 37 states that have it either by executive order or, and 10 of those, 37, by statute. People are not arrested for their speech. They're arrested for their discrimination and violence.
My last question, if you further yield.
To my friend.
Is it not true that we are silencing voters and interfaith groups who have made countless phone calls to their representatives demanding a ceasefire and an end to the $3.8 billion of funding to Israel's occupation force, when those funds would be better spent to support Georgia teachers, Georgia hospitals, and the unhoused here in our state?
That is not true. What I will tell you is true is that Georgia stands with our friends in the Jewish community.
I wish it did for Palestinians as well. Thank you.
Gentlemen, when you have a question, you can state that during this time of question and answer. That's what I'll expect you to do from now on. Representative Panich is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
To my friend, I absolutely do.
Thank you. Is it not true that since October 7th, there has been a 360% increase in crimes or anti-Semitic incidents against the Jewish community?
I believe that is correct, yes.
Is it not, does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that the Jewish population in the United States only makes up about 2% of the population, but it has about 60% of all hate crimes targeting them?
That is true. I believe it's a little bit over 60%.
Does the gentleman yield for one
Yes,
final
ma'am.
question?
Yes.
Isn't it true, is it not true, that this bill does not get applied until there's an unlawful act or a crime, an unlawful discrimination or a crime?
That is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Gentlelady knows what she speaks, as usual.
Will the gentleman yield for one more question, maybe?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, I will. One question.
Right down in front of you, Majority Leader Estration is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is the gentleman yield?
To my leader, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it true that as to the question that was asked previously, concern about the definition here, that this definition was actually incorporated into a federal executive order, as is referenced here in this bill?
That is absolutely correct. It was reference to the executive order dated December 11th, 2019. Members, you can see that in the Senate substitute lines 21 through 22. Yes, sir.
Is it not also true that as to the gentleman's question about free speech, that that's clearly addressed in the lines that you specifically read from? There's nothing to infringe upon free exercise of speech as enshrined in our Constitution in this bill.
That is absolutely correct. And just as a reminder, that's lines 29 through 34. I don't want to read it for the members, but that's correct.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it true, just as this House led in the passage of hate crimes and passed the anti-Semitism measure last legislative session, by passing this today, we are clearly standing in support with the Jewish community and acknowledging that an attack on a group because of their religion is an attack on law and order and should be defined in Georgia law.
Absolutely, and I would go a bit further. Once that group is attacked, it is effectively an attack on all Georgians.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure there are other people that wish to speak to this, but on behalf of the Jewish community and all my friends in their community, you were not forgotten, you were protected. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded well, and I'm sure that you would like this to be thoroughly vetted, and as you know, it has already been thoroughly vetted, so we will not be having other speakers on the bill. That's our rules when it comes to agrees and disagrees. At this time, we'll let everyone show exactly how they feel about this bill, about HB 30. All those in favor of House Bill, the substitute to House Bill 30, the Senate substitute, will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. We do allow parliamentary inquiries. For what purpose does Representative Park Cannon rise?
A parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the Morehouse chapter of the American Association of University Professors opposes this measure?
I'm sure if the lady so states. I'm not familiar with that.
And further inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that Morehouse College stands on a proud tradition of combating racism and anti-Semitism?
I'm sure the lady has that information. Morehouse has not transmitted that information to me, but I appreciate the lady's question. For what purpose does Representative Martin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that in addition to the lines on 29 and 30 that we adhere in this state to the Constitution of the United States and in Article 6, Paragraph 2, known as the Supremacy Clause? Any law we pass in this state cannot stand superior to the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees free speech to every American on any issue as long as the Constitution stands. Isn't that true? The Supremacy Clause is higher than state law in Georgia.
Mr. Chairman, I know you chair higher education. I'm sure you've read that Constitution several times, so I'm sure your opinion is correct. Thank you for stating that. Gentleman from the 168th House District, Representative Al Williams, is recognized. He's not recognized, I'm sorry. Do you, for what purpose do you rise? But I wanted to make sure I recognize whom you are too as well. For what purpose do you rise?
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State that inquiry.
Is it not true that I abhor violence on either side in the current conflict, violence against innocents and children? Is that not so?
I'm sure the gentleman has lived by that his life.
Is it not further true that I'm supporting this measure because having seen both sides of the question, having also gone to jail with many of my Jewish friends during the civil rights movement, I've known most of them to protect human rights throughout this country, and I continue to stand with them. Is that not true?
I can attest that is true. You have been a hero. Thank you for your service to your community and your beliefs. For what purpose does Representative Ruman rise?
A few parliamentary inquiries, if I may.
We'll see how it goes. Let's hear the first one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My first parliamentary inquiry refers to the fact that is it not true that this bill is different than the one that we passed last year that addressed some of the free speech concerns that were presented to this body last year?
Repeat that.
Is it not true that this version of the bill that we are voting on today is different than the one that we voted on last year?
That's true. This is a substitute, and the gentleman explained it.
And is it further not true that in this substitute, it does not actually include the definition in the bill itself? Instead, it references a website?
I don't think that's exactly correct, but I'm sure that's the way the lady has read the bill, and that's her understanding of the bill.
Final parliamentary inquiry is it not true that part of the reason that we made the amendments that we did is to address the concerns about the examples on that website as it pertains to the definition?
I'm sure there was an effort because, as we all know, we passed this bill last year, and there was a big effort to perfect it, some people thought, and certainly everyone in this House had an opportunity to vote their conscience on this bill, as they're going to have that opportunity in just a moment, because I've just about had my last parliamentary inquiry. Let's see. We'll take a couple more. For what purpose is Representative Cox rise?
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that after session last year that my dear friend Rabbi Silverman in Cobb County in their synagogue was hit with anti-Semitic threats and aggression over in Cobb County?
I did see that in the news. Yes, I did. I think that is true, as the gentleman states.
Further inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it also not true that today in the state of Georgia we can make a stand for the people of Israel and the Jewish community by letting them know that they're safe here, they can go to school, that they can live their lives and celebrate all that life gives them without the fear of being harmed by what we're trying to pass this day?
I think the gentleman believes everything he just said, and we're going to give everyone that opportunity right now. I'm going to take 2 more parliamentary inquiries, and then we're going to be finished. For what purpose does Representative Campbell rise?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Parliamentary inquiry, please.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that as a body, we wish for prevailing peace around the globe and in the Middle East?
I'm sure the lady believes as she speaks.
And is it not true that in the spirit of unity, the reading of the actual definition of anti-Semitism would have been a respected action that this body could have taken and could still take?
I think the action before this body is on your desk. You put your vote on the board, and we'll see what you believe and what the members believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One last parliamentary inquiry. Representative Montahan, I think you have something to add here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once spoke on anti-Semitism? And he said that anti-Semitism, the hatred of the Jewish people, has been and remains to be a blot on the soul of mankind.
I'm sure the gentleman believes that quote and stands by that quote and lives by that quote. Have all members now cast your ballots? I think you have. All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machines? On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 129, the nays are 5. The House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 30. Congratulations. Members, I'm going to take this opportunity to remind every one of us that we have an obligation to put a vote on the board when we call a question. Mr. Clerk, will you read the House rule that addresses that issue?
Rule 133, when the question is put, every member within the chamber shall vote unless the member is immediately and particularly interested therein, or unless the member is excused by the House.
It's my sincere hope that the members of this House will be thoroughly informed on every matter that comes before us, and then be willing to take a stand and vote their conscience and their district on whatever issue becomes before this House. It's in the rules, and we need to live by the rules of this House. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We'll move on to afternoon orders at this time, and we'll recognize representatives. Let's see, we also have a time. We're in pretty good shape. We could stay here till dark, but let's don't do that. So I'm gonna hold y'all to 3 minutes. We're about halfway to sunset. We're gonna hold you to 3 minutes, and it will be enforced. Representative Bennett and Representative Cummins have pretty neat afternoon order. The ladies are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady will suspend just for a minute. We have some folks leaving upstairs. I think it may be appropriate to give them a chance to exit the gallery. Members will come back to order. Give your attention to the ladies that are about to enter the well for the second time. Representative Bennett and Representative Cummins are recognized for an afternoon order.
Good afternoon. Representative Bazemore has been out sick this week, so we are here to talk about an important event that she is having on Monday, January the 29th, District 69 High School Check-in Day.
In recent years, the Georgia State Legislature has been moving toward improving access to mental health resources in our state, says Representative Bazemore. Legislation such as the Mental Health Parity Act establishes committees to study the mental health crisis faced by our state and to give recommendations to the legislature on how we can address this crisis. So as we continue to address mental health issues, we cannot ignore one of the most valuable segments of our citizens, which is our youth. So often our youth do not receive the assistance or support that they need to navigate the emotional traumas that they face each and every day. So on Monday, January the 29th, Representative Bazemore will have attending at the Capitol students from Banneker High School and Fayette County High School, and they will advance and learn about legislation, how legislation is passed. And NAMI will be here also, along with Dr. Sherry Blake, an expert in clinical psychology, to address our youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And please stop by to say hi to the kids. Thank you.
We
Thank you,
yield the
ladies.
well.
We hope Representative Bazemore continues to improve. Representative Derek Jackson. Representative Jackson is recognized for an afternoon order. Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise for a moment of silence. I rise for a moment of silence because we're not trying to politicize an event that has hurt so many Georgians. So many Georgians. This maternal health crisis is real. 169 women in Georgia died. 776 infants died. They died in Georgia. Yes, maternal health deals with women, yes. Deals with children, yes. This has nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. We were all affected, directly and indirectly. And the women in Georgia are asking us to do something because 169 of them died. Yes, we are passionate, Mr. Speaker, because this impacts all families in Georgia. Yes, we're passionate about women's health and women's rights, yes. Because our citizens are asking us in urban, suburban, and rural Georgia to do something because they lost a loved one. And since the beginning of this session, we've rise and gave a moment of silence because someone died. It's not a political issue. It's not a white-black issue. Someone died, 169 women, 776 infants. So let us remember in a moment of silence of those families that are impacted in this crisis of maternal health in Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We yield the well.
Representative Estration is recognized for an afternoon order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this is my 10th year as a member of the House. It's the honor of my life to serve in this body. I think my most meaningful moment is each day when the chaplain of the day asks us to stand together in unity. And when we stand all as one together at this House, it doesn't matter your political party, it doesn't matter what issue you maybe were debating, arguing about ahead of time. We all stand together and we all act together as one. Now, you know, the issue of maternal mortality is something that obviously we all care deeply about. We've heard members of both political parties talk about it. I served on a study committee several years ago working on it. Chair Lady Cooper has worked tirelessly on this issue. But we also recognize that we're a House family. And when there's a death in our families, when there's a tragedy that occurs in our legislative districts, we come here to this well with the Speaker's permission, and we tell the membership about it. And maybe it's involving someone you've never met, you've never heard of, but you stand in respect. The entire House stands out of a show of respect to communicate the fact that we are a House family and that we are willing to stand together to express condolences when it's deserved. And a circumstance where that unity that we all, I think, can take pride in because it transcends your political party. It has nothing to do with what part of the state you're from. We're standing together. If that process is eroded and that process is changed, I think that really hurts this institution. I think if you've got something that you want to debate, you feel passionately about your issue, great. You all certainly know I feel that way about certain issues. But I will never abuse the rules of the House and your trust with you standing in unison as we call for a moment of silence, request that you express condolences, because I'm trying to get a score politically to do it. And so I would ask respectfully for there to be decorum. I want to thank the minority leader because he and I have spoken about this before, and he is a gentleman and I think understands and appreciates the importance of this within the House. But my perspective is that we can all recognize what we have and what we do here is special. That should be protected. That should be respected. And we can govern ourselves accordingly so that this isn't an issue for this House. And you can tell I'm emotional over this. So this isn't an issue for this House at all going forward. Thank you. I yield the well.
That is out of order. Here's my comment. Many issues that we debate and we address in this House rise above politics, and we have to put our emotions to the side. This is an issue we can all work together on to continue to make a difference, make more of a difference than we've made up until this point. There's still work to be done. We all know that. I'm going to ask the members, if you will, focus this attention, this political attention, to help solve the problem with a conversation that addresses issues and not partisan back and forth. This House has a reputation on leading on issues as it has done, not just a reputation, it is factual. We've led on many issues, especially health care for Georgians over the years. We will continue to do that. If we do what we've been doing the last few minutes, we won't make progress, and Georgians will suffer. Georgians will suffer. So let's do the right thing. Let's put the politics in the back seat, and let's work on the issue that's important to all Georgians, Several of those issues we will be addressing this session. So I ask you to do just that, and I hope you'll work with me. If you have a question on my statement, on the two previous statements, my office is open. Come see me. But we're going to refrain from this back and forth. We're going to talk about policy and talk about solutions based on the facts. Thank you. Whip Burchett is recognized for an afternoon order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, today on Suicide Prevention Day, I want to talk about a topic that is both sensitive and crucial. Every life is valuable, and each one of us play a role in creating a supportive community. Groups like the American Society for Suicide Prevention and its Georgia chapter do great work on this front. That's why I'm honored to be carrying House Resolution 831 to commend their efforts. But we must always remember that every one of us plays a part there. Many people silently struggle with their mental health, and it is essential for us to foster an environment where they feel safe to speak up. Let's break the stigma surrounding mental health and the mental health issues and encourage open conversation. Listen to those around you with empathy, as sometimes a simple conversation can make a world of difference. Reach out to friends, family, and even acquaintances. Let them know you care. Small gestures can have a significant impact on someone's well-being. Educate yourself about the warning signs of distress and mental health struggles. Awareness is a powerful tool in preventing suicide. If you notice someone exhibiting signs of distress, don't hesitate to offer your support and guide them through professional help. Remember, it's okay not to have all the answers. Encourage individuals to seek help from mental health professionals who are trained to provide the support that's needed. Together, we can create a community where mental health is prioritized. No one feels alone in their struggles, And in conclusion here, let's be compassionate, understanding, and proactive in addressing mental health challenges. By working together and including groups like the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, who was here earlier today, we can make significant impacts preventing suicide and promoting the well-being of all Jordans around us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Well said. Very important issue. Chairman LaHood is recognized for an afternoon order. Mr. Chairman, give him just a minute. Chairman LaHood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. As chairman of the House Governmental Affairs Committee, I'd like to draw your attention to this flyer that was on your desk this morning. It may still be there, and this is to announce the Georgia Municipal Association's annual legislative networking and capital connections breakfast at the Atlanta Hilton. And there will be a shuttle Monday morning to get you there from the Capitol. Starts at, I believe, 6:30. Breakfast will be at 7. And we'd like to see all of you there. Our speaker will be one of the featured speakers, along with the governor and lieutenant governor. And there'll be lots of mayors, city councilmen from all over the state. So hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. That's a great event. Good folks from all over Georgia, no doubt. Chairman Mac Jackson, recognized for an afternoon order. And friends.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, on Wednesday, January 17th, around 6:15 p.m., we had a 2-alarm fire at the landmark. And I want to thank each and every one of you for calling, your concern, your kindness toward us that were affected at the landmark. This is the landmark caucus standing here. Chairman Stevens is out. He's a member of the landmark caucus too. But the speaker even called and told me if I needed a place to stay, I could come over to his place and stay.
He didn't call me.
But several people called, several of you were concerned. It was a serious fire, and Representative McDonald has helped me to get the fire department. They'll be down here on Thursday of next week so that we can thank them for a job well done. I've learned that in this house, you build relationships. And I've got a friend that says, in life, everything moves at the speed of relationships. And Representative Al Williams called me yesterday. I was at a funeral, and he had found me another apartment to live in. But building relationships is so important. Representative Chairman Green has always been there to give me advice. My good friend, Representative Hughley, has always been there while we've been at the landmark. But we are a caucus, and Chairman Green wants to say something.
You know, it was a devastating thing to come back from a dinner and see your apartments on fire and that you couldn't do anything about it. And thank you to the Atlanta Fire Department. And thank you to Penny Houston, who let me stay at her apartment in another bedroom. And thank you. I had a shirt the next day and a tie, and so I will get those back to the individual. But thank y'all so much. Y'all are a loving and caring family. God bless every one of you, and thank you.
We're glad you guys are all okay. Representative Hughley, I do have a pull-out couch. If I'd have just known you were part of the caucus, we would have been fine. That completes our afternoon orders. We have one announcement. Chairman Carpenter has an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have a subcommittee of the House Regulated Industries on Lottery and Gaming meeting in 406 upon adjournment.
Upon adjournment. That won't be long. Let me give you guys a couple of reports. One of them is that Scotty Long is home from the hospital, doing a little better, getting better. Get well soon, Scotty. We miss you, man. We really do. The other important announcement today is that our very own Carrie Vick has a birthday today. Carrie. She has a crown. We may go get it before we adjourn and get a photo here. It'd be a good photo op with you, Carrie. That concludes our work of the day. The Majority Leader. Now listen closely to this motion. The Majority Leader is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House stand adjourned until 9 a.m. on Friday, January 26, 2024.
On the motion of the Majority Leader that this House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. Friday, January the 26th, 2024. All those in favor will respond by saying aye. All those opposed will say no. It's getting closer. The ayes clearly have it, though. We are adjourned. Thank you for your attention and patience.